The term energy transition is being used a lot these days to describe this shift from fossil fuels to renewable energy. This shift is necessary to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions and to stop climate change. In this video, I have a very simple graph that clearly displays what's at the heart of the energy transition. And then I have two different ways that the large energy companies are changing their business to take advantage of this shift. Before we get started, a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Cisco Systems Industry Solutions Group. If you find this video interesting, you can go deeper into the topics of digital operations and security at cisco.com/go/industry. Today, 84% of the energy we use around the world comes from fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas. 84%. That includes the energy that heats our homes, the energy that moves us around in vehicles, and transports all of our goods and services. With our current understanding of climate science, we now recognize that the use of fossil fuels is central to the cause of climate change. We will need to become a society that uses energy that doesn't cause climate change. When we achieve this objectives, we say that we're at net zero. Net zero means we are removing at least as many harmful gases out of the atmosphere as we're putting in. It takes a pretty complicated formula to figure out whether or not we're at net zero. The organization that's probably done the most mathematical modeling of this net zero formula is the International Energy Agency, or the IEA. I've taken their detailed information and I've simplified it into this graph. If you want all the information, you can check out this link at the top right. But for now, let's take a look at this graph. For starters, you can see what I said at the start, that 84% of today's energy comes from fossil fuels. Let's go ahead to 2050, which is when most of the experts say we need to be at net zero. In 2050, a net zero scenario has us consuming about 20% of our energy from fossil fuels. Because the total energy needed by the world stays pretty much constant, about 2/3 of the world's energy consumption needs to shift from fossil fuels to renewable energies. 2/3 of everything. How we heat our homes, how we move around, and how we transport goods and services. That's huge. And that's what we refer to as the energy transition. So how is this going to happen? There's two big things that will have to happen in this energy transition, and they've both already begun. First, energy companies will shift their investments from fossil fuel growth to renewables growth. Every major oil and gas company recognizes that in the near future, demand for fossil fuels, it'll start to fall off, and growing revenue will probably involve renewable energy sources. Companies like Shell, Total Energies, BP, and many others have made large investments in wind power, solar power, and other renewable projects. As the use of fossil fuels starts to fall, this positions them to participate in the massive growth of renewables. The second thing that needs to happen is related to the significant demands that still exist for fossil fuels. There are a number of ways that we use oil, gas, and coal that will not have viable alternatives by 2050. And even the ones that do will take time to start moving toward renewable energy. Because we continue to use fossil fuels, something needs to compensate for those emissions. This is where carbon capture comes in. As the name suggests, companies are finding ways to pull dangerous gases like carbon out of the air to compensate for the dangerous gases like carbon that are going up into the air. These capture devices can either live in the smokestacks of industrial sites to catch the gases before they get into the air, or they can be put anywhere and just pull the gases out wherever they happen to be built. For the energy transition to be successful, it will need to reach net zero by 2050. And for that to happen, we will need these two things to both happen. It's not one or the other, but both. If you found this video interesting and would like to see more, be sure to like and subscribe, and check out my video about how Shell is setting up for this energy transition.